There's a pattern hidden inside every major financial crash, a pattern so consistent that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Because while millions lose everything, the same small group of investors walk away richer than before. They did it in 1929, they did it in 2008, and they are positioning to do it again. The most disturbing part isn't that crashes happen, it's that some people seem to know exactly when they're coming, and they don't try to stop them. They prepare to profit. So the real question is not if another crash will happen, but who will benefit when it does. To understand this, we have to go back to the first modern collapse. 1929. The world was drunk on optimism. Stocks were soaring. Everyone believed prosperity was permanent. Newspapers promised a future without downturns. But behind the excitement, something very different was happening. A small group of investors was quietly selling. While the public was buying at the top, they were stepping away from risk, building cash, shorting markets, preparing. When the crash finally arrived, it wiped out fortunes overnight. Banks failed, businesses collapsed, families lost everything. But a few investors didn't just survive. They thrived. They bought assets for pennies. They acquired companies at fire sale prices. They consolidated power while everyone else was panicking. The crash didn't hurt them. It transferred wealth to them. This was the first clear example of what we now call the crash profit pattern. A cycle where fear creates opportunity, but only for those positioned in advance. Fast forward nearly 80 years, 2008, different decade, different technology, same pattern. Leading up to the financial crisis, the system was drowning in debt. Housing prices were exploding. Banks were inventing complex financial products no one fully understood. The public was told everything was safe. Experts went on television and reassured investors. Governments promised stability. But once again, a small group saw through the illusion. They studied leverage. They watched credit markets. They noticed the cracks forming beneath the surface. And while the world was celebrating record highs, they were preparing for collapse. Some of them placed massive bets against the housing market. Others quietly exited risk. Many stockpiled cash. When the crash hit, it felt sudden to everyone else. Markets collapsed, banks imploded, pensions evaporated, unemployment exploded. But those who understood the pattern made billions. They bought real estate at historic lows. They acquired distressed assets. They absorbed competitors who couldn't survive. Once again, a crisis became a transfer of wealth. Not by chance, by design. And here's the part most people still don't understand. The crash profit pattern does not require predicting the exact day of collapse. It only requires understanding one truth. Crashes are not random. They are built slowly, then released suddenly. Every major crash in history was preceded by the same conditions: excessive debt, artificial growth, cheap money, overconfidence, and denial. When these forces align, the outcome becomes inevitable. What changes is who is prepared. Today, we are seeing those same signals again. Global debt is at historic levels. Asset prices are disconnected from reality. Markets depend on constant intervention. And confidence is propped up by reassurance, not fundamentals. Behind the scenes, the same playbook is being followed. Large institutions are repositioning. Risk is quietly being reduced. Cash reserves are rising. Defensive assets are accumulating. Not because they want stability, but because they expect volatility. This is the modern version of the crash profit pattern. It works like this. First, leverage expands. Easy money floods the system. Assets inflate beyond their real value. Second, the public is encouraged to participate. Fear of missing out spreads. Optimism replaces caution. Third, insiders begin preparing quietly, not by selling everything, but by hedging, diversifying, and reducing exposure. Fourth, a trigger appears, sometimes small, sometimes unexpected, but enough to break confidence. Finally, some panic erupts, and that's when wealth changes hands, because during panic, most people sell to survive, and the prepared buy to dominate. This is not a conspiracy theory, it is a structural reality of markets. Crashes reward patience, liquidity, and discipline. They punish leverage, emotion, and denial. The people who profit are not smarter. They are calmer. They don't chase peaks. They don't panic at bottoms. They wait. And this is where the Stoic lesson becomes unavoidable. The Stoics believe that chaos reveals character. When systems collapse, emotions decide outcomes faster than intelligence. Fear causes mistakes. Greed causes overexposure. Impatience destroys timing. The investors who survive crashes are the ones who mastered themselves long before the crisis arrived. They understand cycles. They accept uncertainty. They prepare without panic. They don't predict. They position. And this is the opportunity hidden in every collapse. Not to exploit others, but to refuse to be destroyed by the same forces that destroy the unprepared. You don't need insider knowledge to survive a crash. You need discipline, liquidity, perspective, and emotional control. The same pattern will repeat again. It always does. The only variable is who understands it in time. The crash will feel sudden. It always does. But for those watching closely, it will feel familiar. Because history doesn't repeat, it reveals. And those who learn the pattern are never surprised by the outcome. What if you could recognize the signals before the panic begins? What if you could remain calm while others lose control? What if the next crash was not a disaster for you, but a turning point? The next transfer of wealth is forming right now, quietly, patiently, mathematically. The question is no longer whether it will happen. The question is which side of the pattern you'll be on when it does. What if you knew the next secret before anyone else did? Comment your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for the next revelation.